Hi, everybody. Welcome to December. We have made it to another month of this pandemic, and we're still here. And I still am so excited to be able to bring yet another healer that is in the Tampa Bay community, which I'm very excited to get to know along with you today. Her name is Kelly Venuti. She is a licensed mental health counselor and a brain health coach, and also works in Concierge Holistic Wellness and Integrative medicine, which everybody that has been a follower of this show knows I am a huge fan and advocate of. So Kelly, welcome to the show today.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So Kelly, you are in St. Petersburg, right?
I am in the Grand Central District, just off of downtown.
Nice. We love
Yes.
St. Pete. St. Pete is the coolest, chicest place to be in Tampa Bay. Don't tell anybody in Tampa.
Right, it is, and I'm a true Bergian, as you would say, right? Born and raised in St. Pete, so I've seen it, from the 70s grow to what it is today, and it's pretty amazing.
That is amazing. I thought that I was able to, I've been here 16 years and I used to work at All Children's 16 years ago. And when people told me to go downtown and have lunch, I said, where's downtown? Like,
Right.
And now it's like just the best. So anyway, getting to the topic at hand, you are obviously somebody who is very well versed in having this conversation to try to bring everybody into a place where we can normalize this conversation about discussions of mental health, getting help, and therapy. So Kelly, can you share with the audience why you got into this field, first of all, and what are your thoughts about people and normalizing this conversation?
Sure. So I've been practicing in the mental health field and arena for a little over 20 years now. So I think I always gravitated towards helping others and listening. I remember my mom, and this is, before cell phones and house phone, and I was tying up the line all the time on the phone with my friends, listening and helping. So that led me to get the second phone line in the home. But she always said, you're such a good friend. You're always listening. You have the patience. So I think maybe that stuck in my head a little bit. And then going on to college, those were the classes that I was gravitated towards taking and interested in. I did work in the school system for 15 years in Hillsborough County as a guidance counselor, which really got my feet wet, working with a lot of different populations and families, and then ventured into private practice after that.
Okay, wonderful. And well, that is certainly working in the school system as a guidance counselor. I mean, you got your work cut out for you there.
Right.
So what was it that prompted you then to go into your own private practice?
Well, that was always my dream and always my goal. So I knew that was on the horizon somewhere. So it was just, I feel like all the stars aligned and it was the right time to do that. And so that's when I made that move.
I love it. So I had read on your website about something I would assume that led you down even a bigger path of integrative medicine. Back in 2018, you had your own scare, let's say, for yourself physically, and led you to have a greater understanding of integrative medicine and such. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about that?
Right. Yeah. So in 2018, I started losing a lot of weight, and I thought, well, I'm finally losing this baby weight that from my son I had in 2012, or kind of getting back to myself. And then I was having, a lot of other symptoms that went along with the weight loss. So not sleeping, insomnia, night sweats, a lot of anxiety, racing thoughts, irritability, you name it. So when I went back to my primary doctor and got my annual blood work, it showed that I had hyperthyroidism, which made sense with all of those symptoms. And also Graves' disease, which is another autoimmune disorder that most of the time, people that are diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, which is it's more rare than hypothyroidism. Usually people see the opposite end. So that's what led me on my journey, because I did not want to, have to take a cocktail of medications just to reduce some of the symptoms I was having.
So I assume then there was an overhaul of nutrition, and that's when you started getting involved and diving into
Yes.
gut health and brain health and the synergy between them.
Right, absolutely. So I did see an integrative medicine practitioner that, then I found out I had some gluten sensitivity, which, people think that if they have a sensitivity, they're going to really feel sick afterwards, or, stomach aches, but that's not always the case. It could just be even the slightest sensitivity that then throws off your gut health and your microbiome, which can then cause the inflammation in the body, which then leads to the autoimmune disorder. So it's all related.
That's great. So, I mentioned to you before that I work with a lot of physicians that are of the same mindset, that there's a lot more to it than just medication. There's a lifestyle change, there's food, there's allergies, there's, testing to see what food allergies you might have. So you've then, because of personal experience, which is why, myself, why I talk a lot about mental health. My passion is to speak openly about it, because it affected me so deeply when I was a young adult, that sharing it with others has been a great, not only healing for me, but for other people, so that you can normalize it a little bit more. So was that why you decided to venture out and expand your practice and do more brain health coaching and such?
Yes, I've always had a strong emphasis on holistic treatments, but yes, my own healing journey is what led me into looking at integrative health. So using the resources, that are around me in my community, and really thinking outside of the box, and it's really bringing it back almost to primitive type treatments as well. So that is what I know helped me, and so definitely led me on this journey to venture out and expand my practice.
So tell us a little bit about what that looks like. I mean, you say primitive, but what does that mean?
Well, when we talk about, even like sound therapy, right? Meditating, yoga, chakras, all of these things that have been practiced, with our ancestors and then beyond, plant medicine, even looking at CBD as a treatment modality to help our bodies get into homeostasis. These are all things that have been around for years and years.
Yeah. So you've incorporated that now into your own practice. So
yes.
I love sound therapy. I think I didn't know about it until one of my doctors took me to my first sound bowl meditation class. And now I go once a month. I love it. It's wonderful. And there are so many other resources than, just the typical, go to a psychiatrist, get the medication, and no talk therapy. So let's talk about the benefits of talk therapy. You've been in practice for quite some time, and I'm sure that you've had your share of patients coming through that maybe didn't feel like they needed it, or maybe it was a suggestion of somebody else. I want to just have that open conversation about all of the stigma that goes on behind going and asking for help.
Right, and there unfortunately, has been a stigma that has, been around for a length of time. But I personally have seen that dissipate over time, and especially now. And as when I did a presentation with the St. Petersburg Chamber of Commerce, that was a hot topic. Because at that moment I was speaking more towards the employers and owners of businesses, and how to help their employees, especially coming back to work, because this is when things were opening back up. So there was some hesitation there and fear-based type thinking. So really, we were all in this together. You know, universally, I really don't think I could pull one person off Central Avenue that would say this has not affected them, that this pandemic in some way, shape, or form, maybe to different, there's a spectrum of that, but stress, fear, fear of the unknown, because this is new territory for all of us. So I think as a community, we can support each other through this and come together.
Yeah. So have you made the pivot like many others and offered a lot of teletherapy in your practice?
Yes. And I had not, well, I had one client that was over on the other coast from, you know, that was just logistics that I was utilizing teletherapy with. But during quarantine, I was in my guest bedroom, you know, providing teletherapy to keep that continuity going. And now I do offer, and I have a few clients, but most of my clients are preferring to, when they can, to come into the office, which I was actually told yesterday, a lot of therapists are only offering teletherapy. So I think it's just what works for each individual. But yes, that's definitely was a new experience for me throughout this process.
Yeah, I think just for some people, it's just easier, you know, maybe the stigma that they feel going into an office, the fear of, you know, seeing somebody else in the waiting room or whatever goes on. I think that teletherapy has offered a great benefit to people like that. I myself go to in-person therapy in St. Petersburg. And I just went back recently because like I'm talking about it so much. I need to practice exactly what I'm preaching, that there's nothing is as severe as it once was in my life, because it's a constant work for me every single day, just working on myself and improving. But I certainly knew that there were things that from this pandemic, you know, I could work on. And I think prevention, just like in integrative medicine, everybody's talking about prevention. Why wouldn't we be doing the work for our mental health like we do for people, right?
Right, ahead of time, right? Yeah. So we're not coming in trying to put out a fire, you know, we're there before the fire starts.
Right.
So right.
We need a toolbox, right? I mean,
yes.
We do. And I think when asked about the pandemic in the beginning, I always said to everybody, like, I felt, because I'm in recovery, I'm 26 years sober, I have this toolkit for years of things that I can do. And I learned quickly that not everybody has that, because they weren't putting in all of the work to make sure that they're taking care of themselves. You know, a lot of self-care, a lot of exercise, a lot of meditating. So with that topic in mind, I know that you have some tips for self-care during this time of stress. So what do you do for you? I want to know what your practice is, and then what do you share with others?
So it's multifaceted, but I think for all of us, you know, to start out your day with an intention and gratitude. You know, I found myself just kind of naturally throughout, you know, when we go back to quarantine, so March, April, May, you know, home with my son, you know, no school, and there was a lot going on, but really just bringing myself back to the gratitude. You know, we wouldn't have had this time together if it weren't for the quarantine, right? I mean, we're constantly going and moving and so fast paced. So appreciating that slow down, you know, of time. So that's really what got me into that mode, and I've continued that daily. Journaling, if it doesn't work for everybody, and none of these things are meant to bring on more stress, right? Or to feel like a job. It has to fit with what it feels right for you. And so that may not be every day, but at least a couple times a week. Meditating, yoga, which, during when things were closed, there were a lot of local businesses that were live streaming yoga sessions. So there are ways to keep up with that. And even though things are back open, there's a comfort level still with people. Some people feel comfortable going back to the gym or back to the yoga studio, but if not, it's still there for you. Utilizing the apps like the Calm app, at night, listening to relaxing music. So just making sure you're getting some form of grounding into your day, spending time outside. I go and watch a lot of sunsets. I love watching the sunset and being on the beach. So for me, that's my calm. That's my bringing me back to realizing that nature and beauty is still there.
I love that. I
Yes.
identify with that a lot. I spend a lot of time on my bicycle. Being in nature is the most calming, grounding thing that I do.
Lots of bike rides we went on as well. Yes.
Thank goodness we live in Florida during a pandemic, right?
Right. Yes.
We're lucky. We're all complaining about how cold it is today and yesterday, but
right. Again, and another thing to be grateful for.
Yes. There we go. Yes, I love that. Practicing gratitude is exactly that.
Right.
It's an action word. So my last question is what I'll be asking everybody throughout December because of the season that we're in, a different kind of season, although it may be. I want to know, Kelly, what did 2020 teach you?
Well, that's a big question, and I feel like a lot of things. I think resilience. I was just having a conversation with a client yesterday about this, and just if 2020, one major thing I feel like it's taught all of us is how to go with the punches. I mean, and to live in a state of mind with lack of control over a lot of things, and most of us, loss of control can really trigger, stressors and anxiety, right? Because we like to be able to navigate our daily lives, and that really was taken away from us. So being able to work through that, I think has been a big eye opener for myself. And just being able to let go of those things that I don't have control of and focus on the things that I do have control of.
I love that answer.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast this morning. I love this podcast. It's called The Last Day. And the first season was about opioid overdoses and such. And this season is focusing a lot on suicide. And I was listening to this veteran, and of course, that veterans, of course, suffer tremendously from post-traumatic stress disorder. And a lot, I just never heard it the way I heard it today about PTSD being brought on, especially when you can't control what's going on in your world. And I really was like, wow, that must be really, really stressful right now, especially. I mean, I know that hopefully we're coming back to a little more normalcy, being able to attend yoga classes in an actual studio and such, but it's still, it's just very, very tough times. So the fact that you are available and that we have service people out there like yourself to navigate and to help us through this pandemic is something that I hope everybody reaches out for. Kelly, I've been talking to so many professionals in this field of mental health, and I still talk to so many people that will tell me about all of the problems that are going on in their lives. Bad, big, huge trauma, divorces, having to deal with the children in divorces, estrangement, and nobody wants to go and get help. What can we do, Kelly? I need an answer.
well, well, I think it's, I mean, just like what you're doing, you know, is having those conversations and sharing with the broader audience, you know, and allowing for those resources to be there. And, you know, because there's a lot of people, I mean, I'm in the field, so I understand what the steps are, you know, to take to where to even start to look for help. But, you know, most people don't. So I think providing that is extremely helpful. You know, and as far as, you know, referring back to my presentation with the St. Pete Chamber of Commerce and employers is offering, you know, psychoeducational webinars that they just present, like, you know, steps to relieve stress, you know, steps for self-care that then can just be tangible, and they can take that with them and start practicing. You know, I think just being able to present to a broader audience, you know, and one thing that I share, a good step for individuals if they do want to seek help is through Psychology Today, which is an online platform. It has filters where you put in your zip code. If you are using insurance, you can put that in there as one of the filters. If you prefer male, female, you know, what your symptoms are, and it will come out with a list with bios and links to websites, you know, and most therapists offer some type of complimentary consultation, whether it's in the office or on the phone or via telehealth, you know, and just finding that right fit. But I wholeheartedly, but Psychology Today is a wonderful resource for.
Well, that's how I found you, Kelly.
Oh, it is. So, see?
You see, it really is true. I mean, honestly, like I mentioned Dr. Mark Sylvester, who is an alternative psychiatrist that I work with in Bradenton. He gets majority of his referrals through Psychology Today.
Yes, as do I.
It's a great resource. And you can count on the people that are in Psychology Today. Everybody's been vetted, and then you have a choice. You know, you can see who you like and who you don't like. You can read about them. You could, you know, look at their picture and see if they're smiling. I chose Kelly. She looked real happy. And I love that, you know, that you have this, it's not a new approach, right? I mean, you and I both know this is not a new approach, but this is new to a lot of people.
Yes.
You know, and I myself pay out of pocket for my therapy. I have the best health insurance because my husband is a UPS man, but I chose to go to somebody that doesn't accept insurance because I put my mental health first.
Right.
That to me,
absolutely. And it's worth the investment. You know,
yes.
we all are worth, you know, the investment of having mental wellness.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that if everybody just doesn't have too many Starbucks throughout a month, you'd be amazed at how much you can save and put towards your mental health.
Very true. It is. Yeah.
Well, Kelly, I'm so grateful that you were here today. In the show notes, it's going to show how everybody can reach out to you, learn more about you. You even added your story on your website, so we'll be sure to include all of that. And to know that you're right here in Tampa Bay really makes me smile, knowing that we have great people and we have this vessel to inform everybody about you so they can see who you are and say, hey, she seems great. Maybe I could go see Kelly. And I highly recommend it. So thank you for being here today, Kelly.
Thank you. And thank you so much for what you do as well.
I appreciate that.
Yes.
Thank you. So don't forget, if you mention that you have seen the show or listened to the podcast, Thai Technology, 3 months for free.